Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Scott Nations, President of Nations Indexes, to discuss Nasdaq-100 performance, trends in the Nasdaq-100 Volatility Index, known as VOLQ, and strategies to trade those trends. Scott, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much, Jill.
Let's start with an overview of Nasdaq-100 activity. The stocks that led the market recovery and rally have taken a step back here, which kind of helps to alleviate some of those valuation concerns.
You're absolutely right. And I think much of that is because of interest rates. You know, the best companies in the world do even better when interest rates are really low. And they've gotten a little lofty when it comes to valuations. It's easy for them to make earnings and make those valuations look worthwhile. But I think it's just a case that when interest rates creep up a little bit, we see the 10-year yield about 1.6% right now. You know, those names which do so well, they also pop into somebody's head when they think about lightening up their equity participation. And I think that that's really what's going on to some of these big names right now.
And how about trends in VOLQ and what it's indicating now? Have you been able to discern anything by the way it's been acting? And does it suggest more volatility on the horizon?
It's a great question. You know, VOLQ measures the implied volatility of Nasdaq-100 using Nasdaq-100 options. And it's really important that people realize that if you're going to hedge a Nasdaq-100 portfolio, or a portfolio that looks more like the Nasdaq-100 than something else, say the S&P, then you have to use the right tool. And as we've seen increased volatility since, say, the end of January in the Nasdaq-100, we've seen VOLQ creep up. The important thing, Jill, is that while stocks in general have been relatively volatile since the end of January, the Nasdaq-100 has been almost half again as volatile as the S&P 500. So if you're using something like VIX to try and hedge the downside for your Nasdaq-100 portfolio, then you're really using the wrong tool.
Right, and that's a great point, Scott. So let's talk about some of the ways to trade the trends or hedge. And the first one we could talk about are the CME futures VLQ, which of course is the overlay on VOLQ.
That's right. VOLQ futures trade at the CME. That ticker symbol, as you said, is VLQ. And the interesting thing there is that market maker participation has really picked up since the beginning of March. And so we see nice markets, tight markets with really good depth, bid and ask. And so if somebody wants to express a point of view or to hedge their Nasdaq-100 lookalike portfolio, then VOLQ futures would be a great way to do it. So that's the first thing. But we've also seen a fair amount of volume in the underlying NDX options. There are also ways you could hedge your portfolio using those products.
And of course, Scott, if you don't trade index options or you don't have a futures account, you can also, whether it's speculating or hedging a portfolio, you can also get involved with the triple Qs, which is the ETF that tracks the Nasdaq-100.
Right. The Q is a very popular ETF, and the options for the Q are incredibly popular themselves. And so there are lots of ways that you could hedge exposure to the downside or to speculate using Q options. One thing I would say, if you're gonna try and hedge your portfolio to the downside, options have gotten pretty expensive, and we know that by looking at VOLQ, the index itself. And so if you're interested in hedging some downside risk right now using Q options, then I would look at something other than simply running out and buying a protective put. Buying a put spread, that is buying a protective put and selling something a little bit further outside, out of the money as a way to really reduce the risk. That would be a great strategy right now. So again, buying a put spread in the Q would be a great way to hedge downside risk.
All right, Scott, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.